Okay, guys, can you hear me now? No audio the whole time. Oh my god, are you guys serious? Oh shit. No sound. Oh my god. I know you're like looking at me right here. Oh my god, that was such great information too as well. Was that the whole time that the sound was out? Yeah. Oh my god, I'm so sorry guys. I had no idea the sound was out. Yikes, yikes, yikes. Oh god, that's not good. Well, basically, Adronis came through, Kidioki came through, Randall came through, and oh, it was intense. And Adronis had so much information to share. Oh my god, guys, I'm so sorry that happened. Oh, I don't even know where to begin with that now because there was just so much intense energy and so much information that came through. I had no idea that my sound was off. God damn it. Oh man. Okay, well, it looks like I'm gonna have to probably do some summary videos basically on what Adronis and Kidioki and Rando have said. I can't even begin to sum it up right now because I don't even remember it all. It's just really, really intense. Oh my god, guys, I'm so sorry. Well, that sucks. That sucks balls, man. Okay, well, that'll be my intention for this week, guys, is just kind of going back to what Adronis had shared, and he'll put a video out this week. A lot about what he talked about was really just the beginning of the star system, the beginning of how Maldek was the prime locator of all the experiments that were happening. And then, of course, moving on to Mars, moving on to Earth, and the vast capabilities of the human body incarnating other souls from other planets, other galaxies, other star systems, other universes, simply because they could come here, because this is the universal body archetype. So, yeah, that's a lot of information. Kidioki was coming through, and he was just sharing hello to everybody. Oh, crap. All right. So, yeah, so I'm going to make up for that this week. So, let's go past that right now. So let's move on into Q&A. Maybe just in regards to anything that's happening with you guys. Shit, I just wish I knew that I didn't have any sound on. It kind of pisses me off. All right. Does suck. Sucks monkey balls. It's awesome. It's awful. Okay. So yeah, like I said, I'll make it up for you guys this week. We'll get some videos out, all with Adronis, Kidioki, and Randall coming through and putting that onto the channel this week. Okay, so I know, missed the Maldek talk, right? It's awesome. It was so good. It was really good too. He had some really good stuff to share. Yeah, got a lot of recording to do. No flare in the background. Yeah, I know. So anyways, what is on your guys' mind? Is there any questions that you want to share? As we'll just get into the Q&A, and you guys can hear me now. If there's any questions that you want to come up with, maybe it's something in regards to ETs or intervention, visitations, interactions, anything of that nature, or anything else. So yeah, basically I would try to summarize. The thing is, I don't really remember everything that's being shared when I'm in that state. I'm kind of in quote unquote la la land. When I'm channeling with Adronis, I kind of am in this like landscape in that way. And I'm not really paying attention to everything that's coming out. So I'll understand bits and pieces of everything. So I can usually provide like a little bit of summary. But Adronis was basically saying that everything that's happening right now is on the way out. It's just all part of a process that's building up and building up and building up. And there will eventually be a point where, of course, we go through the shift. We go through fourth density and we transform. And we're no longer experiencing the intensities of what we're experiencing right now. I do remember Rando was also saying that everything that we're going through right now is basically the most intense thing that we'll ever experience as a species. Once we get out of the sludge, or the shit, as he said. Well, he's like, basically, as soon as we get out of that shit, to get out of that shitter, blah, blah, blah. Right. The southern accent that he has. As soon as we get out of that sludge, then that's something we'll never have to experience again. And so really there will be up times. But Rando has also said that he agrees with the span of change that Adronis has talked about, 2017 to 2024, that this is where it's all happening. This is the sludge time, right? This is where everything is just, it's like we're these hardcore gardeners and we're ripping all of these weeds out of the garden and we're ripping them up by the roots. And then we're going to go to that source and we're going to deal with that source together. Basically, it's all just a particular state of implosion. Kind of like how Maldek imploded and destroyed itself in that way through an internal war. That's basically what these quote-unquote power elitists are going through. They're basically building up all of this energy upon themselves until they spontaneously combust in that way, as it would represent their systems. So Kidioki basically just came through, and he just wanted to offer his greetings to everybody, to share his love with everybody. So he was kind of just being the greeter in that way. And Randall was sharing more of his own timeline with us. I do remember what he was saying is that there really is not much of a difference, as it would represent our dimensional line and his dimensional line, his form of coherency in that sense. In his own timeline, he had Donald Trump as a president. He had, and basically his family was still the same. And basically a lot of the stuff that we're going through right now is, again, a lot of what he went through as well too. So there's only like a very minuscule divergence line between his dimensional line and our dimensional line as well too. So it'd probably only be like a 1 to 3% divergence in between the differentiations of those two dimensional lines. So he says basically this is the time in history where a lot of people look back, because this was the time of great change. He was basically looking at a dimensional shift during this time, again, between 2017 and 2024, where we move into fourth density. And once we're there, everything is going to change momentously. And basically they were talking about, visitations, about other beings. Adronis's basic sharing was that don't worry about trying to convince the entire world that you have had an encounter, that you've had an interaction with another extraterrestrial being, simply because it's not your job. It's not your responsibility to try and convince everybody around you that an extraterrestrial has been a part of your life, or that you've met an extraterrestrial or anything like that, because you can't get people in entirety to get into that alignment. Adronis has even said that even when you look at this channeling between him and I, that when you are looking at this, you have the ability to reject this and saying, to hell with channeling, I'm done with that, I'm leaving. Okay, that's fine. And hey, this sounds exciting, this is some great information, it resonates a lot what I've discovered, let's keep going. Great, sounds good as well too. So he really doesn't care if you believe in him or not. It's just at the point that this information is coming through, and that he's sharing this information because there is a karmic connection. And that's something I'm remembering right now. It's kind of like remembering a dream. It's like trying to go into your points of your dream and trying to pick all this out. But he says basically everybody that has these particular types of interactions with other beings is all part and parcel of their own karma. Adronis is here because he is karmically connected to me. Now it can be in that way looking at it as a positive karma. But basically, anytime you forge a contract with another being, there needs to be karma involved. If there's no karma with a being, between yourself and another being, you will not have a contract. Simple as that. Contracts do not exist without karma. So that's basically one of the things that Adronis was talking about. And so his interaction with me is part of a karmic contract. Basically, the type of beings that we interact with, the guides, spirit guides, extraterrestrials, extra-dimensionals, beings from other different realities, etc. They're all karmic. Everything is just karmically tied together within us because we're attempting to remember ourselves. And basically when we bring equilibrium to those karmic contracts, then those contracts become nullified or basically absorbed into us, and we become one. So that's kind of like the idea where you've had past troubles with a loved one, and there was just a lot of chaos, but you were all able to come together and hug it out and bring understanding to each other. Now you'll notice that you basically can go one way and they can go another way as well too, and you really don't associate with each other anymore, simply because that contract has been nullified. So basically the closeness and the kinship that we have with other people is part of the karma that we carry. Again, doesn't have to be negative, but it's just something that we have developed within ourselves to say that this person means something to me. If it's my father, if it's my mother, if it's my brother, if it's my sister, if it's my best friend, if it's a stranger on the street who I'm now good friends with, all of that is karmic contract. All of that is part of karmic agreement. So Adronis was talking about that. It was quite fascinating. So I'll get him to talk more about that in one of the videos this coming week. And again, same with Kidioki and Randall. I'll try and get all around this week if I'm not too busy, but that'll be my goal. If Randall's timeline was almost the same as ours, I wonder if this happened without no sound in his past timeline. He may have used interpretive dance. Did you ever think of that? Maybe just right? Telepathic interaction, right? So that could be possible too. Yeah, but again, that was weird. I thought for sure the sound was on. So my apologies for that guy. For that, guys. My apologies. So again, one person asks anything on the Yahyel. Well, basically, Kidioki stated that he's interacting with all different types of people. So there are other people who here on the planet who he's interacted with, and it's kind of like he's just being a part of their dreams. He may be connecting them as relatives, as friends, etc. So he's basically being this figurative mentor for a lot of people, both on the Earth and off the Earth. And basically, he's saying that when you go into fourth density, the Yahyel will be a very big part of that entire reality. And parts of them will also be part of that reality as well too, because there's a part of the Pla-Yel that exist in both fourth and fifth densities. So with Kidioki, I'm communicating with I believe a fourth density version of him, I think. I'd have to go back and check. It's been a while since I've channeled him. But it definitely feels like more of a fourth density version of him that I'm communicating with. And of course, if you're looking into the Shikani, you're looking into kind of a fifth density energy. And then, of course, Syrian, 6th density energy, and of course, Augustus from Arcturus, 7th density. So I kind of go up the ladder, 4th, 5th, 6th. Yeah, it is. Kidioki and Kalina are both of the 4th density, as I remember correctly now. But yeah, the Yahyel is going to be a very much big part of our future. And so, as Bashar has talked about, as Adronis has talked about, and I'm sure other sources have also talked about, that the hybrids would be kind of this mentoring civilization that's going to help to introduce us into the galactic community. There will be other particular beings involved, but they have more so the forefront of being the ones responsible for mentoring us, simply because they share our genetics and they're our immediate family of the stars in that way. So they will be interacting with us a lot more as we move further into fourth density. So that's primarily what he has said about that. Okay, so let's see if there's any other questions here. Any information on inner Earth beings? Yeah, Adronis was talking about inner Earth beings as it began. He basically talked about the 5 root races, from what we would understand, and that there was another root race that was part of the Earth plane prior to our modern society as we know right now. And these were blue skin beings, and they basically exist inside the inner Earth. And so the inner Earth consists of different territories. We could even see them as countries as well too. And so many of those particular types of inner Earth beings have gone through their own trials and tribulations as well too. There's borders around some of these territories, these vaults that are hidden inside the Earth as well. And basically these were some of the first humans that came here on the planet. Not really engineered by the 22 different races or the 22 different contributors. They're more part of a lineage in that sense. So a lot of them can come from the Pleiades, a lot of them can come from Ursa Minor, a lot of them can come from Lyra, a lot of them can come from Aldebaran, Altair, etc. A lot of different races, lineages in that way. And basically a lot of them are all about trying to maintain their own genetic integrity. They don't want to be messed with. They don't want to have their genetics altered in that way. So again, it can be looked at as types of purists in that way. And that's really what a lot of these inner Earth beings, these inner Earth stewards represent, is that they don't want to have any kind of manipulation with their DNA. They're very, very strict about actually just having relationships with their own kind, with their own relationship, not to mix. And that's part of their own aspect of karma as well too, is that they're unwilling to basically have any kind of progeny relationships with other particular beings that are outside of their own genre of theme of genetics. So that's things that they're working on as well too. So that was some of the stuff that Adronis was talking about as it relates to some of the inner Earth beings. So yeah, quite extensive. What about the inner Earth beings that are coming out to join us? That's still in talks right now. Adronis has also talked about that there is not in this transmission, but in previous ones, he's talked about that there is an accord looking to be created right now. There's basically a new kind of galactic constitution that's being in the works right now. And it's kind of up in the air about when it will be fully ready to go. There's talk maybe the next couple of years, maybe the next decade or something of that nature. Basically, they're trying to get all of these races that have been karmically involved with the planet to sign a dotted line of a galactic constitution of a certain accord in that way. And if that particular accord can be signed, then a lot of these particular beings will basically have the type of agreement to come forward and actually start interacting with humanity. Now, basically, human beings are also part of the leisure that need to come together and actually sign this particular dotted line as well, too. So there needs to be a mutual agreement with all parties that would allow some particular types of expansive interaction to take place. So there are some beings who are really happy to sign this, and there are other people who are saying, no, I want to see where this is going still. Maybe there's still an opportunity that we can overthrow humanity and get this planet for ourselves, right? So there's, again, continual talk. And it's the same thing with the inner Earth races. Inner Earth races really, some of them are basically quote-unquote racist. There are some racist inner Earth beings, and they really don't want to interact with beings that have quote-unquote contaminated their body with other mixed genetic races in that way. They are impure in that sense. And that's basically how the whole Nazi movement started. The whole Nazi movement was all part of the genesis of the philosophies as it relates to some of these inner Earth being Nordics. And Hitler was able to interact with them around the areas of Argentina and Antarctica, or Atlantis in that particular way. And then later on got assistance from reptilian beings, etc. So it turned out to be quite a big mess. But a lot of their philosophies is all about pureness and purity, and they feel that they would lose part of themselves if they interacted with others, when in fact you're gaining more of yourself, because we're all existing within the fabrics of creation within each other. But that's basically how they've been raised. That's a lot of their mentality, and that's why there's been a lot of wars taking place in the inner Earth with these particular beings. And again, this is just what I'm reciting from what Adronis has shared and kind of what he's sharing in the background right now. And that's why there's been territories and countries. So we have countries inside the Earth. And again, they just have their own ways. Like Telos, for example, would be one of these particular types of countries, right? And there's other particular types of countries that are just scattered throughout the inner workings of the Earth, throughout the Agarthan network. And so they're still trying to get a lot of their stuff together before they can actually interact with all of us. And there's still a level of maturity that they need to go through. And there may be a question, well, aren't these races that are in the Earth, in your Earth, all fourth density? Some of them are third density, some of them are fourth density. Basically, it's all part of technology, really, in that way. There can be natural vaults within the Earth that are actually more, as they get closer and closer to the center of the Earth, that are more in alignment to fourth density, like a field. But some of these particular forms of inner vaults are more so technologically created to be fourth density. It's actually not that hard to do. You use crystals themselves, vibrating a certain resonance that actually contains that transforms the molecular cohesion within that particular area's atmosphere, can basically create a synthetic pocket of fourth density. So that can be done with crystals, that can be done with other particular types of quantum technologies as well too. Eventually quantum computing will catch up to the point where you can actually shift dimensions using quantum computing. So yeah, there's there's a lot of stuff as it relates to just what these beings are going through and the technology that they have and what they're going to share, hopefully with all of us as the time comes together. But there is this big agreement, this constitution, galactic constitution, that's still in the works right now. Okay. Did Hitler really die, or did he escape to Argentina? Well, he basically escaped to Argentina. He went to Argentina. I've actually talked to a lot of people whose parents were able to see Hitler in Argentina as an old man in that way. I would believe that he's probably passed on now, but he definitely retreated to Argentina because he was just a big part of this kind of theme of domination that he was going through. But it was also a means in that sense of attempting to, there are so many hidden agendas to it. Again, a lot of it is inner Earth philosophy. So I believe that they were hoping that a lot of what he would do would succeed, and that basically a lot of these beings could come to the surface again if Hitler was able to succeed in winning that particular war. And that if there was, just this whole idea of a huge, purist movement taking place, which is true because, certain Aryan races do have that kind of pure genetics in certain ways. So they would basically find some way to coexist if something like that changed. So like I said, it's a big mess. There's controversy on top of controversy on top of controversy. I don't think you can talk about any of these topics without going into some type of controversy with it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool, pretty cruel, pretty in between. Zena asks, which crystals? Well, there's basically gigantic crystal, I guess you could say like crystal towers, just incredibly large crystals that exist within the inner earth, and they are programmable. And so that's basically one of the greatest aspects of working with crystals, is you are able to program them, and you are basically able to give them instructions as it relates to memory that can actually allow them to oscillate and vibrate in a coherency alignment, moving into a fourth density pocket. So beings in that sense that exist in fourth density, they will actually naturally calibrate the vaults, the pockets that they exist within fourth density, and then these crystals will vibrate in resonance for as long as they need to be there. So crystals, again, have such a incredible long lifespan, of course, and there's so much a prolific amount of them that they can basically just oscillate and vibrate in resonance. And it's like they're just broadcasting this field of fourth density. And of course, beings can step out of that field and go into third. There may even be some possibilities of fifth density vaults inside the planet as well too. It all just depends. There's so much going on inside the planet that we're still not aware of. So basically it is kind of like a bridge between third and fourth density from within the earth. There are some beings like the Sasquatch that are third density, that are basically existing in these third density pockets of the inner earth as well too. So like I said, it's very, very broad, very vast. It's all kinds of cool stuff going on. Let me just take a moment, guys. I'm just going to turn on my light here so I can get a little bit more illumination here. 1 second. All right. It's so dark so quickly here. In Canada now I look very orange. I look like Donald Trump. My God. Got this orange skin now. So again, a lot of really great information from Adronis and Kidioki and Randall tonight. There's been a lot of requests for Kidioki and Randall to come back, so this is why I said, okay, sure, I'll bring them on the program. Just unfortunately, you guys didn't hear me because Randall was hilarious. He was cracking quite a few jokes. So, but again, we'll get that settled with some videos this week. Okay, so we'll take a few more minutes just seeing if there is any other questions in the chat. Oh, here's one from Lucas. Brad, any thoughts on the new financial system? Jonas has actually talked about this with other people. Basically, there's a current eclipsing as it relates to some of the alternative currencies that are attempting to bring themselves up right now, from cryptocurrencies and legal back tender, gold-backed currencies, etc. There's still a lot of wrenches being thrown in the works as it relates to these elitists and wanting to try and maintain their fiat currency empire. But it's basically just doing all these things, these sabotages, these events that are basically trying to hold down a lot of these new financial systems that are attempting to come up. So it's still an ongoing battle in that way. Adronis has talked about it the other day, actually, with a client of mine, and basically stating that there's an eclipsing happening right now. They're basically attempting to put this shadow in regards to cryptocurrency, still trying to feel like it's not going to be a real currency. It's not going to be able to replace the actual financial system, etc., when in fact it is. Everything they say that it's not going to be, it is going to be. But again, there's just a lot of this uproar about trying to do a tug of war as it relates to the balance of power relating to the financial system that we currently know right now. But it's on the way out, and it's just dying a very, very slow death. And so it's kind of like a waiting game. But it does feel within the next year or two, we're going to see a lot of changes in that particular arena. So right now it's basically just on life support. It's going through cardiac arrest, and they're doing everything they can. They're getting they're getting the pads and poof, trying to still maintain that financial system when it's ready to die. So yeah, hopefully within the next year or two, we'll see some really great changes. Basically, this whole new financial system is ready to be rolled out. It's just ready to have the ribbon cut and rolled out. But the whole idea is you have all these cockroaches around that are trying to hold it back and say, no, you can't. No, not going to happen. We'll fight. So everything's ready to be rolled out as it relates to a big reset, to basically clearing off a lot of debt throughout all the world, through different nations, different countries, all of that is going to be rolled out. I think it'll be a lot of universal basic income that will be coming together through this new financial system. Cryptocurrency will play a part of that. Other particular currencies as well too, because as I've stated before, it's not just one currency that's going to quote unquote dominate the market. It's going to be several different currencies that are going to be created. And I think a lot of them will be open source in that particular way. So, with all this legal backed tender as well too, maybe that's part of a digital currency or part of a legal backed tender as well too. We'll just see, guys. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Again, all that Adronis has stated is that it's going through eclipse periods right now, and it's been ready to roll out here for quite a few years, but there's just been so many holdbacks and sabotages and blackmail and God knows what else, all these other incursions that are taking place that are trying to hold it back. So it gets nasty. It really does. Okay. Brad, have you invested in crypto? I have one Litecoin. So I basically invested like $60 in one Litecoin. That's my cryptocurrency right now. Maybe in the times ahead I'll invest in more, but I just kind of wanted to just start off small and kind of see where it goes. But I am invested in one Litecoin, yeah. And I think I have like 0.0001 Bitcoin as well too, because I work with Coinbase in that way. Joe says Nasara. Well, that's just a funny name for universal basic income. So that is coming again. It'll be introduced country by country. Canada is eventually going to be looking to roll out a universal basic income starting in the East Coast in Ottawa or Ontario. And then it's basically just going through a test and seeing how it does, and then it'll spread throughout all of Canada. I believe Iceland will probably be getting into something like that, and a few other different countries as well too. But basically the idea of what Nasara isn't really going to be the approach in that way. The idea of Nasara is more so what is attempting to roll out. But again, don't hold your breath on it, right? It still may take some time just because there's so much inner politics going on. Remember that you're the value. It's all about your particular aspect of value and what you're broadcasting out as value. And that value is going to come back to you in any particular shape, form it wishes. So it's not about the idea of saying, oh, I need to wait until Nasara comes. I need to wait until this universal basic income comes. You have all the possibilities within yourself right now to transform the financial aspect of yourself just by looking into your own value and finding out what you know you deserve and where you want to put your energies towards something that you want to express yourself with. And of course, all of that particular type of value will gravitate around you like an orbit, right? So you don't have to wait for something of saying, please get me off this because I don't want to deal with this financial system anymore. Well, remember what I've said with one of these new videos. The universe does not understand yes or no. So if you're going to say, no, I don't want this, I want to escape this, guess what you're putting all of your energy into? You're putting all of your energy into feeling that I can't handle this, I can't handle my finances, I want to escape, and then you're creating more of that turmoil upon yourself. Whether you say yes or no doesn't matter. It's what is focus and what is lack of focus. And that's what determines the aspect of what you're going to be cohesively aligned to. So don't worry so much about giving your power away to the aspect of any particular type of financial system. You are that financial system. You are your value. You are this aspect of everything that you want to become in life, as long as you feel you deserve it. That's the whole idea. Rather than thinking about this, go to this instead. Create that substitution technique, right? So again, one of my new videos that I talked about. Okay, guys, I'll probably just take one more question, and then we're just going to wrap it up for tonight. Okay, we actually had a couple questions here. So there's one here from Ethereal Resonance. Which ET race do the Maori from New Zealand belong to? Something I really want to know. Well, let's kind of tap into that for a moment. It feels like there's Orion connections with New Zealand, and it does feel like it may be within like the Rigel star or perhaps Betelgeuse, but it does feel like there's Orion connections that some of the New Zealanders in that sense have certain forms of connections too. But it could also be in the idea of other visitors coming from the past as well too and leaving their marks in that. But basically the first thing that came up was Rigel and Orion, right? So there's Orion connections, I feel, as it relates to the Maori. Okay. So I'm going to take this last question here from Killian Sage. Killian asks, "Hey Brad, I am both excited and nervous for the fourth density shift. Is this okay? Obviously, this is a new experience, so I feel it's only natural to be nervous, but that state of won't prevent shifting." Okay, so just trying to make sense of the last part there. It's okay to be nervous. Absolutely. It's okay to be afraid. Adronis has said this many times as well, too. It's all right if you're feeling afraid, as long as that fear is not dominating you, right? Sometimes we'll get that. It's not the emotion itself that you really need to be concerned about. It's the trauma that is actually allowing these emotions to barrier itself in that particular way. And this is what I teach in my light circuitry attunements as well, too, is that we don't really concern too much about the idea of the emotions. The emotions are just the gatekeepers. They're the ones that are closing these big iron gates so that you cannot access a trauma within yourself in that way. So emotions in that sense are always something that we're going to have. We're going to be emotional in fourth density too, right? That's not going to be devoid of you, right? Emotions are a gauge. They're a helper. They're actually showing us exactly where we feel that we are traumically impaired in our body, right? So we feel abandoned, we feel scared, we feel frightened, we feel rejected, etc. We get into these particular types of traumas and we utilize the emotions to cushion them, to barrier this energy altogether. And it's really not about attempting to, quote unquote, get rid of your emotions. You can't. It's not possible. What you're basically doing is you're just parting those emotions aside by softening them with positive energy, and then you see the gaping wound in your heart that would represent the trauma. I felt abandoned, I felt rejected, etc., etc. And that's what we're looking for. So we're looking into that very hurt version of yourself that feels afraid, that feels rejected, that feels abandoned, and we're bringing it love. And we're putting all of this love into that aspect of trauma, and we're now making it a part of ourselves right now. We've been able to forgive that aspect of the trauma. Now the emotions don't need to be there anymore. You know, the emotions is not the quote-unquote target when it comes to light circuitry attunement. The trauma is, right? So if you feel an emotion as it would relate to fear, it's okay. Just talk to that fear and say, "Hey, fear, I know you're there. Let's sit down. Let's have a talk. What are you afraid of?" Right? And it's basically in that sense, maybe I don't feel I'm good enough. Maybe there's still a lot of melodrama that's happening in my reality that's going to prevent me from shifting into fourth density. I completely doubt that. You know, that's not what it is. We get so hard on ourselves in that particular way. As Adronis has talked about as well, and even what I've shared as well too, unless you are being highly manipulative, you are trying to basically control people, you are basically all into greed, you'd rather see everybody just perish and, you know, thrive in your own misery, then maybe you have something to be concerned about, you know, for making this particular shift. But as I've stated, I think there's actually going to be a lot higher percentage as it relates to a fourth density shift than what we have talked about. I don't know if it's 40 to 50%, but it certainly does feel like it's quite high up there. Because basically we go through these tally up points, these equinoxes, these solstices, these lunar phases, you know, all of these different forms of tally up gates that are basically showing us in combination what is still happening with us. So usually a couple weeks before or after an equinox, a solstice, a few days before a full moon, etc., or just up upon that cusp of a full moon, we start to go through these emotional states. Nature is doing us a favor. It's basically saying this is still something that you're holding on to. How do you feel about it? If we're just basically, you know, distracting ourselves and we're reading the newspaper, going on the internet, watching TV, whatever it is, and we're basically shutting out all of these emotions, then they're going to build because they're trying to tell you, hey, we're a defense mechanism. We're a gauge. We're trying to tell you that there is this trauma that's happening within yourself and you've put all of these emotions around it, and we're telling you now is the time to take care of this. And so when you finally get that memo and you finally start connecting to that and say, oh my God, yes, you're right. And now I'm going to start working upon myself about that. Not with the emotions, but I'm going to bring emotions love so they can part, so I can open up the gates and see the gaping wound of the trauma, right? When you start to work on that trauma, that is what makes all the difference. So what I always say is just start bringing yourself into daily compliments. Start complimenting yourself because you want to get your love vibration high, right? it's basically just down here and the fear is up here, then you're going to have a lot of trouble with that, because now you're just basically being consumed by fear. Get it up to at least this even balance point, right? You can even get it up higher than that with the love vibration right here. You're doing well. You're sailing in that way. Now you can look into these particular types of emotions that have been these gatekeepers for the trauma itself. And now the trauma can be healed. Now the trauma can be harmonized. So again, I do this through my light circuitry attunements, and it has had such a huge high success rate. I've really been amazed about the people who have had instantaneous healing through that particular attunement. So don't worry about being afraid. It's just all part of a gauge that's showing you, okay, well, if that fear is there, that's cool. Let's just talk to the fear. Let's see what the fear is saying there, right? And be on your own side. Be your greatest ally. Be your best friend. Be your true family, right? And just start to work with this as deeply as you can, because you have the capability to become anything you want on this planet, in this universe as well, as long as you're willing to validate it and know that you deserve it. All right? Thank you so much, everybody. Again, my sincere apologies for the audio being off. I'll probably have to edit this video once it comes live on YouTube, and probably just show the part to where there was sound. So again, I will be making up for that this week with some new videos coming out. But again, thank you so much for at least participating within the Q&A portion of tonight's broadcast. I really appreciate it, everybody. Love all you guys. Thank you again for being here. And I'll talk to you again in another 2 weeks in the Reality Whisperer Webcast. Thanks so much, guys. Take care. Namaste. Talk to you soon. Bye.